Oh, hi, welcome. On today's episode, I'm going to show you, in today's video, and hopefully a video at the end of the week, the final steps in painting and preparing a car to paint. I'm going to show you the proper ways to water sand, final sand, block, all that fun stuff, and hopefully, if I remember right, and this gimbal works, I'm going to bring you in the booth with me and show you how to lay out stripes, how to break up colors, that sort of thing. This is a 69 Nova top sportsman car. It's got a 700-inch big block Chevrolet in it. As you can tell, you probably can't see the axle. It's way up under there. Fun story, this is actually a car that my father painted probably 15 years ago, and now I'm getting the opportunity to paint it back. Now, the most important step I have learned about getting a job straight and making sure you've not missed anything is guide coat. Now, there's a couple ways you can do that. One, with guide coat. And you can also bypass this if you'll buy you a wax sponge and go to Lowe's and buy you chalk line chalk. That works great. You can also use spray paint. I don't have any black, so this may not show up great on camera. But you can, if you're using a spray can, I was brought up to call it peppering. And it's essentially what you think it is. You are standing away from it and dusting it. That way, whenever you sand, the paint will stay in the low spots, the dents, the scratches, and all that stuff, and you can actually find them. Or, and this will show up a lot better on camera, you can use this guide coat. This is 3M, but anybody that sells paint has their brand, and it's all the same. Like I said, you just rub it on as light or as heavy as you want to. There honestly is not a right and a wrong way as long as you're getting the same result. And I know that was a very oxymoron thing to say, but I have done many cars that way with the spray can. I have recently started using the powder. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect because you might not see it on the screen, but even in that light area, it is darker than the normal primer in person. Something I will recommend, and is my only drawback with the 3M brand guide coat. Some brands give you a sponge with a handle. Those are awesome because, I mean, you're going to get dirty doing this regardless, but it's a lot easier to hold on to. It's a lot easier to load the pad and all that fun stuff. So as you get it, guide coated, if you've got a car that, you know, you're just repainting it and it's factory colored and you're not going to have to do any body work, you don't necessarily have to do this. You can get away with just, if it's shiny and you sand it, it turns dull, the dents and low spots are going to stay shiny. If you're taking a car like you just paid off your 2006 Mustang and you want to paint it, if the body is good and the paint is good, you know, it's not cracking, it's not faded, it's not flaking, you can sand that paint with 600 grit, 800 grit, just anything to give the base coat a tooth, by hand or with a foam sponge. Kind of like, hold on. Sort of like this one. That is a 3M, ignore spider not included. Ignore the spider. But anyway, it's a 3M sponge. You can basically just take a piece of paper, wrap it around it, and it gives you a great way to hold it. And you will not put your finger lines in it. Now, as far as the sanding, there's two ways to go about that. One, is you go out and you buy you a block. This is a second-hand, I want to say linear block. Yes, it's linear block. Does fine. It's real stiff, but yet does bend. I've got one over there this long. Actually, this one, compared to this one. And this one's really good for doing big panels. And then I've got one over there that's the same length as this one, but it doesn't have these ridges, so it's not bendable. I don't find much use for it just because a lot of the stuff I do all has curves in it. But you do not have to buy these blocks. Something that I've done for ages is you can either buy Durablocks, which you can buy cheap, which are these blocks. They're hard foam. They do have some bend to them, but not bad. And then you can also buy, there's so many block companies out there. These are K-blocks, and these are nice if you have hand issues, because they're really big and easy to hold on to, and they're soft. You'll hear everybody online say that you have to have this to make something straight. You have to have that. You have to do this. You can make anything straight with anything if you're patient. You just have to stay calm, and the most important thing about bodywork, and I will say this a lot, no matter what you do, you can fix it. So just stay calm. If you screw something up, it's not the end of the world. Now, I was just making sure I was still recording. New gimbal, it's a story. When I'm at the final stage of painting, like this one is, to where the very next step is putting paint on it, I like to sand with 320 if it's a solid color, or 400 grit if it's a metallic. This is going to be a dual stage color. Paint it black, then paint the pearl on top of it. So I'm just going to do it in 320. And I use, it's technically dry paper, but it works really well wet. I use this 3M Cubetron stuff, and I've lost the box for it. Anyway, I'll find the box and I'll share it at some point in this deal. It's Velcro backed. Again, they'll tell you that you can't get a flat panel with Velcro. You can. Is a sticky back with no Velcro better? Technically, yes. But for the average car, the average just going to town rig, the average show car, this will be fine. Now, if you go on forums, if you go on any of that stuff, there's a discrepancy. Some people, like myself, like to water sand, which, as the name implies, you sand with the panel wet. I always thought of it as it keeps the surface cleaner, and it's kind of like if imagine a river rock. The water going over it does help clean it, and it makes this paper slightly less abrasive. Because there is a certain point to where the paper will skim across the panel and not dig in. So a lot of people say 320 grit dry is 320 grit, but it's closer to 400 when wet. So that's something I've always done. I guess it's just hardwired into me. So you can do it. It's about 45 degrees here today in East Tennessee. So you can do it a couple ways. When it's really warm outside, I will take a water hose, barely crack it on to where it almost drips. Or if it's really cold, I'll fill up buckets. I've even went to the Dollar Tree and bought gallons of water before if the water hose is frozen. But I like these little sprayers. You can get them at Harbor Freight, Lowe's, Amazon. You can probably steal one from your neighbor. And just wet the paper, Again, everything doesn't have to be drenching with the panel. This kind of does two things. Any dust and debris that has settled on it overnight, especially if you're using the water hose, you kind of knock the dust off because dust can scratch. But this kind of helps take off all the high spots, all the dust that may cause issues, because you can't see it on the floor. But I've not rinsed the shop out yet, and the water droplets are stirring up dust. That is something you will forever fight. Now, also, I should have said this earlier and I apologize. You do not have to have a block. You don't have to spend any money at all on this. Something that I've done and something that I was actually taught on is you go to your local parts store and you buy your paper. Again, 3M, they kind of have the market cornered as far as what you can get without ordering off eBay or Amazon or wherever. Take 2 paint paddles, just plain old paint stir sticks. Cut them, break them, whatever, to where they fit your paper, and then just roll them up in there tight, and that gives you a really good sanding block. Only drawback to this particular block over this one is this one is a lot easier to hold for long periods of time. This one gets tough on your fingers. I remember many days I've sanded till my fingers bled with this style of block. But either way, you know, this one where it covers the panel or this style will do it. Very professional. It's stuck. You'll see people will mention that you need to sand in the next pattern. And I do agree with that. But a lot of times what I will do is I will sand it this direction. Excuse me. You know, bracing with this hand, sanding here. And then I'll come back and sand this way with my other hand. And, you know, do it that way. That way I am sanding in a cross pattern, but it's a little easier on your arms. Because if you do this, I'll show you here in a minute, I've got the entire front end, doors, everything in there. But you come back in here and you rinse it off. Now, full disclaimer, you might not see a lot on this car. This car has already been blocked and primed twice. So other than tiny little chips, which I'll show you, you may not see much in this. But on your home system, or in your home deal, you might have darker spots. Like I said, I like these better because they fit in your hand really well. The most important part when you're doing it wet is to keep it wet. It does two things. It makes the paper last longer and it helps you see what you're doing. Because this area right here should be really close to done. I gotta be careful, there's no glass in this thing at the moment, and I don't want to put this thing through a carbon fiber wheel tub. And a trick, this car doesn't have a solid body line here because this thing's just really rolled and bloated, but if it had a solid line like here, somewhere in the middle of the quarter panel, you can take a piece of tape, which I've apparently lost, a piece of, half-inch tape and run it down the body line and sand to it, and then pull the tape off and sand the other direction to make your fine line. Because it is possible when you're using high build primer to actually sand away a body line, or to make the body line real crisp and then it fades away and then comes back, but you'll get a touch for it. If you're using this style, I actually have a water hose over there, and after I finish this quarter, I'll probably finish it without recording it. I'll probably use the hose because I'm built up a tolerance to cold. If you're using this style, be prepared to go through a lot of these. I probably go through 2 to 3 of these pump things a year. Now some of that's my fault because I don't take care of them because they're $10, $15 a piece. Or cheaper if you buy them on sale at Harbor Freight. Stay. But just take your time. I'm barely putting any pressure on this. Because if you put pressure on it, yes, you're sanding away and getting rid of the guide coat, but you can dent the panel you're working on. Not physically dent it, but dip out the primer. A wise man once told me, every product you put on the car, from the primer to the clear coat, is another level to get it straight. You use high build primer, block it down. When you put your base coat, I try not to sand base coat, but you can in theory if it's not a metallic color. And then obviously when it gets the clear on it, I'll go back over it and sand the clear and buff the clear. So every step, you're technically giving yourself a way to get lines, ripples, waves, all that fun stuff out of the way. I left a spot to show you what you will see if you're doing this, just for educational purposes. This thing has had extended fender wells put in it. They're about that much longer than normal. So this thing will fit the big old tire that goes on it. And the cool thing about these blocks that's got the slices cut in them, you can actually, when you're sanding, you'll feel the body change and you'll feel them get tighter. I've not pinched myself yet, which is kind of an amazing thing. But this may not be a good trait, but it's one that I've picked up. Pretty much all of your roll paper are wider than your blocks by 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch. I will put that to one side, and on stuff like this where it's got a roll, I will use that edge to help carve that roll, if that makes any sense. Or you can buy one of these blocks that's shaped like a teardrop. You'll have to use sticky paper because these aren't Velcro. But either way, the same thing will happen. You can just... And also, you'll learn that sometimes, and this is what takes touch. This is the only hard part about this. You'll sand it, you'll rinse it off like I've done, and you'll see spots like there. I always go back over them just to make sure that they're actually low spots and not a spot I missed. So again, very little pressure. I'm letting the block and the sandpaper do all the work. It is also important you will go through a ton of paper. Don't be shy about it, because when the paper gets dull or dead, whatever you want to call it, it starts to not cut, so you put more pressure on it, and you're just doing more harm than good at that point. Yeah, I went back over it, and those spots there, and there were gone. Now, if you do have a low spot, like I said, I know where one's at. I'm telling you I left it for teaching, but realistically I just forgot to do it when I primed it. We knock this stuff down where you can see it. When you have a low spot or a dent, it will look like right there where it's dark. That will show your low spots. I don't know how well that's showing up, but show you another one out here. Like I said, I've got the bumper, the front clip, doors right here, where it looks like it's speckled. That is a low spot or a dent. When you run your hands across it, you can feel it. Same thing with right there. Let's see here. Sorry about that, the gimbal had a moment. But any low spot will show up as a dark spot. And that's how you will get these cars really straight. If anybody has gimbal solutions out there, I'd much appreciate it. Okay, anyway, we're back. A lot of these cars that you see on TV, they'll be done several times. Whenever I paint a black car and I want it to be really slick and straight, I will do this procedure, maybe not with the water, but I will cut and block it 2 or 3 times. Because unlike what TV tells you, there is no such thing as a perfect car. There's near perfect, but there's no such thing as it being actually perfect. There'll be a flaw somewhere, a spot where things didn't cooperate, all that fun jazz. But that's basically the long and the short of it. Stay. It's also important to, again, take your time. Don't rush. Because again, even if you make a mistake, you can go back and redo it. That's the biggest thing about body work to remember. Just stay calm. Maybe hire a friend to hold the water, but just stay calm. And cool thing about these blocks, like I said earlier, how they've got the pieces that cut. A lot of GMs, you know, Chevelles, Novas, 67 and 8 Camaros, 69s, kinda, where the body line goes from the quarter into the transition to the door, that's not straight. It actually kind of, from the top looking down, this is the quarter going to the door, it kind of rolls into the door. It's not a lot. I would say probably it's less than, I would say it's less than 3/8 of an inch. But with a standard solid block, it'll just skim across it and you'll have a line. To where this one, it fits it. It doesn't bend, it doesn't twist unless you have to, but it hits all the low spots. And